Hello, welcome back to Planet 40k. Now we recently did a post in our community section of our channel requesting that our subscribers of the channel put forward a list. It could be any dynasty, it could be any Space Marine chapter, any points, any match type, and one list will be selected at random for me to go over to review and then analyse. Now we have recently been reviewing and analysing some of our members list from our paid members from the channel, but this one was open to the free subscribers. So the subscriber that we selected today is going to be Mage Aramail. In his comment, he's put probably the most unique and OP Necron list that he's ever seen, so I was quite intrigued to listen to what he's got to say. So like in the previous videos within this series, we're going to be going through the list. I'm going to be telling you what I like, what I dislike, and then maybe doing some amendments at the end of the list in the analysis section of the video. So Mage Aramail's got a 2000 point Necron list. He's going to be doing a double detachment, and he's going to be using the ancient custom dynasties. So he's going to be using the Eternal Conquerors as well as the interplanetary invaders. So let's quickly go through what those actually mean. So the Eternal Conquerors is effectively just objective secured. It's going to go on all your units. Of course, it's not going to count towards Catan units or dynastic agents, but everything else is going to have objectives secured. And if you're taking a troop option, then they're going to count as one additional model when determining control of an objective marker. So for example, warriors, if you've got 20 of them, that's going to count as 40 models. Then the second one, interplanetary invaders. This is for your vehicles. So vehicles with this code are eligible to shoot in the turn in which they fell back. And if they do so, it's going to be a -1 to their hit roll. And furthermore, vehicles do not suffer the penalty to the hit rolls when firing heavy weapons within engagement range. So I very rarely see this custom dynasty used, to be honest. So I'm quite intrigued to see how this is going to play out. So the first detachment he's gone for in this double detachment is a patrol detachment. Now it will have his warlord in this detachment, so it's going to be free to use, because of course if you get your warlord in this detachment, you're going to get your 2 command points back. So it simply needs between 1 and 2 HQs and between 1 and 3 troops, and then everything else is pretty much open as long as you don't go over 2 of that battlefield role. So the warlord in the first HQ of this detachment is a Catacomb Command Barge. Now he's gone for quite the standard loadout. You probably see this quite often. He's gone for the Enduring Will Warlord trait for a -1 to all damage taken, and he's put the Voltaic Staff on to replace his Staff of Light. So this is a relic with 18-inch range, Assault 4, Strength 6, -2 AP with the damage being 2, and 6s will cause 2 additional hits, and the melee variant is the exact same stats, Strength 6, -2 AP with 2 damage, but no exploding 6s there. Those exploding 6s only work at range, but it's probably one of the better options when you're taking a Catacomb Command Barge. He's also putting the Gauss Cannon underneath the Catacomb Command Barge for 5 points. It doesn't have a 4+ invulnerable save, but it does have the Quantum Shielding save for that 5+ invulnerable, and you can't wound it on less than a 4+. So in total, this HQ is going to be costing 160 points. So at the end of each battlefield roll, I'm going to be putting at the top how much each battlefield roll costs, so they can keep up with all the points within the detachments. So onto the troops, he's going to go with warriors, and he's going to go with 2 units of 10. Now I prefer them in 20s. They just work much better in terms of the reanimation, but there is a reason for the 10s, and we will see later in the video why. So the 2 units of 10 are going to have the Gauss Reapers, which are only 12-inch range, but they're Assault 2, Strength 5, -2 AP with 1 damage. They're what considered the better weapon, but they're at a shorter range of course. Now you do have the option of using Disintegrators and Capacitors for 1 command point to make any unmodified hit rolls of a 6 automatically wound when you're using your Gauss weapons. Now even though you've only got 10 man units here, that's still 20 shots, so on average you should expect 3, maybe even 4 6s within that volley there. So at 130 points per unit, that's costing 260 points for the troop section for this patrol detachment. So that actually legalises patrol detachment. Anything else now is a bonus. The next battlefield role is actually the dedicated transports, and it's gone with 2 Ghost Arcs. Now I personally love Ghost Arcs. I think they're so underrated in the Codex. I personally use them as more of a tank unit, but for this list they're going to be a transport option for those warriors. That's why he's only taking units of 10, because only 10 can fit in a Ghost Arc, which is a bit annoying for us Necron players because we want to put 20 in, but we're not allowed to, of course. Only 10 can go in. That's the max capacity. But one of the main reasons for taking a Ghost Arc is the repair barge ability to be repairing D3 Necron warriors in the command phase. And in fact, you could even use the Ghost Arc stratagem. So instead of healing D3 lost warriors per turn, it'll actually be D6 warriors. So you should start to see your points get returned back quite comfortably there. But to top it all off, it's got the Quantum Shielding ability, which is going to be a huge theme in this list, which you'll notice throughout the video. So not only are they going to have a 5+ invulnerable save, but also you cannot wound them on less than a 4+. So no matter what the strength is, you need a 4+ just to get through these guys, and then there's that 5+ invulnerable save to add to that resiliency there. Now there's 2 of these Ghost Arcs within this detachment, which is going to come up to 290 points there. and both of them of course are going to be shipping those warrior units for extra added safety. Next we've got the elite section. Now this one's probably a little bit of an error, but I've put it in here already, I've done the artwork. But he's added 2 units of 2 Cryptothralls. Now the Cryptek units are actually in the next detachment, but I'm going to put them here anyway. It makes no difference because it's not going to affect either of the detachments. But there's 2 units of 2 Cryptothralls. When they're within 3 inches of a Cryptek model, enemy units cannot target the Cryptek with range attack, so it's a better version of a Lookout Sir. And of course they've got the Systematic Vigor ability, so if they're within 6 inches of a Cryptek, their weapon skill and ballistic skill will go up to a 3+, and the attack's characteristics will go to a 6. So hold that thought in terms of the Cryptothralls. When we get into the second detachment, you'll see how they synergize with the list. But as for now, we're going to put them here, and 80 points for the 2 pairs there. We then go on to the fast attack options, which is the Canoptic Scarabs. You can't go wrong with Scarabs, they're cheap as chips, and they're scoring you points pretty much throughout the game. And he's gone with 2 units of 3 here. So just a little side note of a couple of stratagems available to the Canoptic Scarabs. They've got the self-destruction ability. So in the fight phase, after they've piled in, you roll a d6. On a 2, 3, 4 or a 5, the enemy will suffer d3 mortal wounds and you'll lose the scarab. And if you roll a 6, then the enemy unit's going to be suffering 3 mortal wounds. Now I like to use that when my scarab's down to 1 single wound remaining, because it's more valuable to throw the mortal wounds out, especially if you've got a Canoptic Spider. Now in this list there isn't actually Canoptic Spiders, but when you do have those Canoptic Spiders in the list, you can simply bring them back in your next turn. You've then got the option of using the Enslaved Protector stratagem for 1 command point in your opponent's charge phase. These Canoptic Scarabs can heroically intervene as if they were a character, which is going to really tie up an enemy unit, pin them down and prevent them from doing what they want to do. So that's the last battlefield roll within the first detachment, and it's going to come at 90 points for the 2 sets of scarabs there. So that first patrol detachment in total is coming up to 880 points. So let's move on to the second detachment, which is a spearhead detachment. So it's very rare you see a spearhead detachment. Normally it's an outrider detachment or a vanguard detachment, or another patrol detachment, but it's gone with a spearhead detachment, so that's between 3 and 6 heavy support options. Now I personally don't rate the heavy support options within the codex, partly due to that blast ability that most of the weapons have. But let's move on to the HQ section. So here are the Crypteks, of course. It's gone with 2 Technomancers, so they will be guarded by those Cryptothrall models that were in previous detachment. Now he's gone with 2 of these, and both of them are going to be carrying the Canoptic Cloak, piece of war gear, which gives them a 10-inch movement as well as fly, and they can heal D3 lost wounds to a dynasty model within 3 inches. They've then of course got the rights of reanimation ability done in the command phase on a core unit that is within 6 inches of the Technomancer. You can bring back a model, and if it's a warrior unit you can bring back D3 warriors, which pairs very nicely with a Ghost Ark's repair barge because you can use both the abilities. The Ghost Ark bringing D3 back, Technomancer bringing another D3 back. Now he's chosen to use the verified nobility stratagem for 1 command point to add an additional warlord trait to this list. So he's gone with the Thrall of the Silent King to add 3 inches to the aura abilities. I'm not actually sure why he's chosen this. I did actually ask him in the comments what the reason for choosing this one was. I can't quite understand it. Maybe there's something I'm missing. You'll have to let me know in the comments. He's also gone with the Dynastic Heirloom stratagem for 1 command point to add a relic to this same Technomancer with the Thrall of the Silent King warlord trait, and he's going to be going with the Veil of Darkness relic, so he can be zipping around core units that are within 3 inches of this Technomancer, anywhere on the board more than 9 inches away from enemy models. So in this list the only core units are going to be the 2 warrior units, which are already in Ghost Ark, so it'd be quite interesting to see how this works. Maybe this is a plan B option, who knows. So as for the 2 Technomancers within the second detachment, they're going to be totaling 160 points there. He's not got any troops or elite units within this detachment, so we're going to go straight into the fast attack options, which is a Canoptic Scarab unit, only a single unit of 3 models for 45 points. We've already gone through what these guys can do with their stratagems. They're pretty much just speed bumps or just tying up units, but most importantly they're scoring you points, whether it's your primaries, whether it's your secondaries. I quite like to use the Ancient Machinery secondary from the Necron Codex, because you can be using Canoptic units to do that. Okay, so on to the heavy support section. So for the first part of this section is gone with 3 Doomsday Arcs, each one coming in at 170 points. They've got 10 Gorse Flare arrays of course on the sides, but that's not really why you're taking them. You're taking them for the Doomsday Cannon. Either a 36-inch range, heavy D6, strength 8, -2 AP, damage D3, or the high powered variant, which is a massive 72-inch range, heavy D6, strength 10, -5 AP, and the damage is D6. Now this does have the blast ability connected to this weapon, so you can't be firing it within combat. However, that's the primary reason why he's gone for the Interplanetary Invaders Dynasty code, because then those Doomsday Arcs can fall back and still fire even though it would be at a -1 to hit penalty. Again, these have got quantum shielding, so they've got the 5+ invulnerable save, as well as not being able to be wounded on less than a 4+. Again, that's quite a common theme in this list. Then the final units within this detachment and for the actual army itself is 2 Tesseract Arcs. Now these are Forge World models that come from the Armor Compendium book. They are legal, they are Necron units. We've actually done a review on them recently, so if you haven't yet seen that one, just find it in our Necron playlist. There may even be a link at the top right of this video now, if I can remember to put it in. But the main weapon of the Tesseract Arc is a Tesseract Singularity Chamber, so you choose one of 3 profiles. So the first profile is the Particle Hurricane. It's only 12-inch range, but it's Assault D6, Strength 4, -3, AP, and the damage is 1. But each time you make an attack with the weapon, it automatically hits, and it also wounds on the 2+, unless it's targeting a vehicle there. So that's the first profile. The second profile is the Seismic Lash, 24-inch range, so you doubled your range now. Assault D6 again, this is Strength 5, -3 AP, and the damage is 3. So whereas the Particle Hurricane is more of a light infantry weapon, this is more of an elite infantry weapon, maybe even a Terminator killer here. But the main weapon is the Solar Fire. 36-inch range, heavy D6, strength 8, -3 AP, and the damage is D6. So this is your anti-tank weapon. Now this is a heavy weapon, so normally if you fire this into combat, there will be a -1 to hit penalty. But again, with the custom code that is chosen, there will be no penalty. Unless you're going to be falling back with this unit, then there will be a penalty, but at least then you get to choose your target. You don't want to be wasting this kind of weapon on a really meaningless target that's tagged your Tesseract Arc in combat. Now with this Tesseract Arc does have a second weapon, and he's selected 2 Gauss Cannons, and there are a few other options, but he's gone with the double Gauss Cannons, 15 points per Gauss Cannon, the 24-inch range, heavy 3, strength 6, -3 AP, and the damage is D3. So an infantry killer there, but that damage is a little bit iffy at D3, but it's still doing a bit of work there with 6 shots. So we've got to mention again, it's got quantum shielding for that 5+ invulnerable save, and you can't wound it on less than a 4+. Again, that consistent theme of the list is still there, but this one also has the Containment Field ability, which has a 4+ invulnerable save. So that 5+ quantum shield save is trumped by the 4+ containment field save, but he still gets the second part of the quantum shielding, not being able to be wounded on less than a 4+, so he gets the best of both worlds there. So that's the Spearhead detachment completed. There's 2 HQs and there's 6 heavy support options. So you've got a legal detachment there, and that's going to complete the list. Now the heavy support section is 910 points, so that makes his second detachment 1115 points. So once you add the 2 detachment totals together, you've got a list total of 1995 points. So he's got 5 points spare there. There's not really anything you can spend 5 points on within this list, so we stopped it there. So let's get on with his actual tactics. So going back to the actual Ancient Dynasty code, which is Internal Conquerors and Interplanetary Invaders. So when you've got so many vehicles that have got a lot of wounds, quantum shielding, as well as the objective secured from Eternal Conquerors, that's going to make them really resilient, really a tough nut to crack, especially for your primaries and your secondary objectives. And then with the second ability of being able to fall back and shoot, or not having that -1 to hit penalty, that's going to really aid the vehicles within the list, especially those Doomsday Arcs with the blast ability, because if they are tied in combat, they're not going to be firing, but now they've got the opportunity to fire because they can fall back and it'll only be a -1 to hit. But in total with this list is 8 vehicles with quantum shielding, so 8 vehicles with a 5+ invulnerable save, and not being able to wound at less than a 4+, that's going to cause a lot of craziness. It doesn't matter what type of strength your opponent's bringing to the table, they're going to need a 4+. What I also like about this list is the ability to keep repairing units. There's a little bit of a triangle going off here, so you've got the Technomancer who's able to repair the warriors, but he's also able to repair the Ghost Arc with his Canoptic Cloak ability, and then the Ghost Arc's able to repair the warriors with the Repair Barge, and then the warriors of course repair themselves, because when they're doing their reanimation protocols, they get to reroll 1s. But regardless of that, if they're going to be sat in that Ghost Arc, they're going to be protected anyway. And then going back to that Technomancer again, they've got the Cryptothralls protecting them, so there's a real good bit of synergy going off there with these 3 units in particular, and of course the Cryptothralls. So if your opponent wanted to focus fire on one particular vehicle, so say for example you've got a Doomsday Arc at the side of the board on its own, and your opponent decides to try and focus fire everything they've got at it at range, or in melee, it doesn't really matter. You've got the option of using the quantum deflection stratagem for only one command point, and it turns your quantum shielding save from a 5+ to a 4+ save. So that's going to be working on your command barge, that's going to be working on your Doomsday Arc and your Ghost Arcs. Now you're not going to need it for your Tesseract Arcs, it's got that 4+ invulnerable containment field save, but for the other vehicles you're definitely going to be using that every turn. Also, if your opponent tries to get these guys into melee, with that custom dynasty code to simply fall back and still shoot, it's not going to affect your weapons. Whether it's a blast weapon or a heavy weapon, it's not going to have that much of an effect. You're still going to be able to choose your targets by simply falling back or just using the blast ability on your Doomsday Arc. And to add to that, all these vehicles have the fly keyword, so even if enemy units are going to be wrapping around your vehicles, you can simply fall back by flying out and still fire. Now while all the mayhem's going off and your opponent's trying to take out your quantum shield vehicles, what are the units that are scoring you points? It's the little scarabs that are going to get ignored as always. They're going to be getting your primaries, they're going to be getting your secondaries. Again, use that ancient machineries, secondary from the Necron Codex. You're going to get tons of points from that. And if your opponent does go focus firing on your scarabs, then hey, you've still got all your big weapons on your vehicles, and these guys are only 45 points a unit anyway, no big loss there. So on to my analysis for this list. I think it's actually a very solid list. I mean, I put it in the thumbnail, I think it's a top list. I love the fact that you've combined Eternal Conquerors with a lot of quantum shielding. Your vehicles are going to be extremely difficult to push off the primary objectives. I think your opponent's going to be pulling their hair out by the end of this game. So a few units that I'd like to maybe try to add to this list. I'm not sure what you'd have to remove to do so, but I know what I'd want to add. The first one would be a Triarch Stalker for 135 points, that's before any upgrades of course. With the targeting relay, allowing the rest of your Necron force to reroll hit rolls of a 1, could be pretty big, especially on those big weapons from the Tesseract Arc and the Doomsday Arcs. And of course, it fits perfectly because it's got a quantum shielding, just like the other vehicles. And then the second option, which isn't so popular at the moment, but with the current codexes such as Drukhari and the Sisters of Battle codexes, there's a lot of toughness 3 going around at the moment, so I think these Annihilation Barges are sort of seeing a little bit of a comeback. They're 120 points, and if you go with the Tesla option, so the Tesla Cannon and the Twin Tesla Destructor, that's 13 shots. If you're going against infantry that are toughness 3, that's 13 shots that's going to be wounded on 2s. No AP and only 1 damage, but you don't need AP or damage. They're going to have a 6+ invulnerable save most likely anyway. But with 13 shots, going against toughness 3 with a 5+ armor save or a 6+ invulnerable save, you're looking at between 7 and 9 dead models. That's per one single Annihilation Barge. And the reason there's going to be that many models removed is because they're Teslas. Any 6s are going to explode, giving you 2 additional hits there. So from 13, you should expect 2, potentially 3 6s within that batch, which is going to score you a lot more hits there. And then of course again, quantum shielding, which is going to fit nicely with your list. Now I don't know how many of these I would opt to take, but it all kind of depends on who you're going up against. If you are going up against, again, Drukhari, Sisters of Battle, then I'd definitely take a couple of these. Again, I'm not sure what I'd remove. Would I remove the Tesseract Arc? Would I remove the Doomsday Arc? I'd probably remove the Doomsday Arcs if I'm honest. Swap 2 of those out for 2 of these. That's 100 points saved, which could mean more scarabs. Or you could even remove one of those scarab units and put that 100 points and that scarab unit's points towards getting a 3rd Annihilation Barge within your list. Now I mentioned this earlier in the video, I'm not quite sure why you'd pay a command point to give the Technomancer the Thrall of the Silent King Warlord trait. It adds 3 inches to the Warlord's aura abilities, and I don't think the Technomancer has any auras, and he also doesn't have the Mind Will Be Done ability or the Lord's Will or the Adaptive Strategy ability. If you were taking the Canoptic Control node, that would be an aura ability, but you've gone with the Canoptic Cloaks there. And it's also not working on the Veil of Darkness relic either. So maybe that was a mistake within your list build, I'm not quite sure. Or maybe you meant to put this on the command barge. I think I just completely remove this, don't pay the CP, it doesn't really need a Warlord trait. Arguably doesn't even need the Veil of Darkness relic because your Ghost Arcs are taking those warriors anyway. But I do see why you could have it for a backup plan, I guess. Then the last thing to mention here is, could you fit a Catan Shard within the list? Now, he mentioned this in his own comments when he sent his list through on the community tab. I've tried messing around with it. You'd have to take away a couple of Doomsday Arcs at the very least, and possibly one of the Canoptic Scarab Swarms as well, just to be able to get one of these guys in. Now, is that worth it? I mean, yes, potentially it could be worth it. It's a massive distraction unit, and depending on which one you'd go for, I mean, you can go for the Nightbringer, which is just going to ignore all kinds of saves. You go with the Void Dragon, which doesn't have as much of a punch, but it does have the option of using the stratagem, and it's good against vehicles too. Or the Deceiver, which is okay, but he does have that Grand Illusion ability pre-game, so you could potentially be putting things into reserve or just redeploying 3 of your Necron units pre-game. Then furthermore, you got the Transcendent Catan Shard as well as an option. I don't really ever field that, to be honest. I know a lot of you guys do, it's just never been for me, that one. It just seems like a B-Tech version of one of these shards. But other than that, I do love the list. I don't have as many vehicle models to be able to fill this list to test it out. So I urge everybody in the comments, if you've got these units in your next Necron battle, put these in a list. Let us know how it goes, because I'm quite intrigued. I think it's a top list in my opinion. The synergy looks really good. Now, Mage Aramail did actually admittedly say that it's probably not going to be a tournament level list, but in your local gaming clubs it probably would do well. So let me know how you get on with that. And like before, if you see Mage Aramail in the comments, show him some love. Like his comment, say hello to him. This is his video after all. So that's it from this list review today. So if you have found this video useful, remember to subscribe, like the video, share the video and all that good stuff. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.